Lauren Yeates from Rave It Up here, and today I'll be chatting over Skype with Mark Gable from the Choirboys. Hi Mark, how are you going today?
Hello Yeates, how you going? I'm sorry, I should call you Lauren, but I couldn't resist. I'm good. I got a little bit of the black dog, but I don't care. I'm good.
Good. Well, hopefully today's interview will make you upbeat and ready for the day again.
Absolutely.
Welcome to Rave It Up. It is a pleasure having you on. And since this is your first time on the show, before we talk about all your achievements and your tour, we'd love to get to know you a little bit better. Sure. And I think we should start from the beginning because that only makes sense too, right?
Sure.
How did you originally get started in the industry? Have you always had a love for music since you were a little boy?
It's not, well, that's it. Not since I used to like Calamity Jane, the movie. You know, I remember that was one of the first things I heard. But the first music I really heard was in New Guinea when I was a kid, because my father was working as a miner, and the locals, like the Papuans, used to work on the mine for 2 shillings a week or something. It was unbelievably high wages. But they used to sing every evening at 6 p.m. in their compound, and it was like, well, barracks, I would call them. And it was unbelievable. You know, that music has stayed with me forever. And when the Choirboys went to the Solomon Islands to entertain the troops over there some years back, we went to a kind of a party and they were singing, and it was very, very similar to what I remember hearing when I was a kid up in New Guinea. But my first memories of music were, you know, things like Doris Day and what have you. But it was really the Beatles when I was 12 or 13, and I went, I want to be Paul McCartney, you know, and that I just decided then, because I was hopeless at schoolwork and I didn't really fit in anywhere. And then, you know, back in the 60s, the world was very intolerant of people with learning disabilities, like, you know, dyslexia, like I have. And so I just found myself, I want to be Paul McCartney. This looks like a bunch of fun. You know, I didn't know that, you know, if you were in a band, you end up, you know, guys break in your house and stab you 17 times. You get shot in the back in New York by some lunatic, right? I just thought they were the bee's knees.
Yeah, just be careful from now on.
Yeah. Well, you know, the great thing is that we're at a totally different level than the Beatles were and still are. And so I can walk down the street and be anonymous, you know, just fantastic.
Good. You got a balance of both?
Yeah.
So do you think of it ever as a career, or is it just a bit of a hobby on the side?
Oh, it's always been a career because I never wanted to do anything else. And you've got to remember that we grew up in a time where you can make a living out of music, you know. So really I started hitting the straps, you know, in the 70s. So I was in some band and we had a residency, and I was earning enough money to live doing 2 shows a week in the 70s. And then it just got, you know, bigger and bigger and bigger, and all the way through the 80s. It wasn't until the 90s that the live scene started to get legislated against, with noise pollution, smoking, no smoking, drink driving, licensing the amount of people you could have in a room, all these ridiculous things that you know, all right, so you've got cancer. Okay, so people crash when they drink drive. Oh, okay, when places burnt down, you had too many people. All these kind of things. But that kind of freedom went, and with the advent of digital music and the ability to copy music and the cheapening of music, it's like changed the whole landscape now. So we were very lucky. I was very lucky.
Well, it's good that you've got to, over the decades, kind of seen how it's all changed.
Yeah, well, sort of, you know, like people who weren't born in the 70s really miss out. Right? They've really missed out, you know, or didn't grow up in the 70s, you know, like some people I'm talking to right now.
Yeah. And where did the name Choirboys come about? Is there a funny story behind this?
It was mainly due to our original guitarist, who's not with us anymore. He's been replaced by Brett Williams in 1985. And Brett, of course, is the guitarist on Run. You hear him on Run to Paradise and all that era. But Brad Carr was our original guitarist. He was so sweet looking, and people loved him, but he was a total ratbag, scumbag guy. And you know, the angelic persona that you first meet was always replaced by this demon. And so that's where it came from, Choirboys.
Ah, that's interesting. That's not what I would have guessed for that sort of name.
Well, there were also bands around at that time like the Saints, the Angels, the Church, and I thought, we've got to get a religious name, so the Catholics, no, the Fathers, no, the Preachers, no, that's a band now. We went for that because I thought it was suitable.
Yeah, it's kind of funny because when you first look at the name and you don't know who you guys are, it's like, oh, okay, interesting, and then you listen to the music, you're like, what? That's not what I expected.
No. Well, there is a band in England, a bunch of young guys, they're probably not young anymore, they get replaced all the time, called the Choirboys, as opposed to Choirboys, which we are, and they are literally a boys' choir. There's 4 of them. And, quite frankly, I wish they would disappear because they really annoy the Google searches for Choirboys, the real ones.
Yeah, that's a shame, but what are you going to do? So you guys have had a quick break, but you're back and you're on tour again. So thank you for taking the time out to talk to us. We really appreciate it. You'll be hitting the stage again with ACDC songs, which you did like 3 years ago as well. So why ACDC? I know they're awesome, but why are you doing it again? We
have a connection. It's not like we're mates or anything. They actually hate Choirboys, and particularly me, because I've got a loud mouth and people ring me up and say, hey, what's happening with this? And which happened a few years ago when Malcolm Young went down, and ABC rang me up and said, what's your opinion? And I said, well, from what I understand, Malcolm has got some sort of problem. It's been partly confirmed by, one of his relatives, and I won't go into that now because one of his relatives is now a good friend of mine, subsequently after the fact. And so it went all over the world, and it went pre-ACDC making an announcement for Malcolm Young. But we were signed to the same label. We were signed to Albert's. We were there for 7 or 8 years. We recorded in the same studio. We did our first album in the same studio that ACDC did their first 6 albums in. And so there is that connection, and we worked with Vander and Young, who were ACDC's first producers. Excuse me, I've got to scratch my nose. But that happens when you're doing something recorded video-wise, doesn't it? See, if we weren't recording, I could just go like that and it was just audio, I'd be fine, but no. And so, there's that history there, so we grew up with, Vander and Young when they were in the Easy Beats, and then the other Youngs when they were in ACDC, and, then when we finally went to Albert Studios and recorded in the same studio, it was amazing. The studio was hideous. It was really old and beaten up, but it really was an amazing moment and time.
Yeah, it would have been such incredible, talented energy in there. It's just harness all that ACDC energy.
Yeah. Well, George Young in particular, who was really, I would assume, the driving force behind ACDC, because it was his younger brothers, Malcolm and Angus, that were in ACDC, and he really got the whole thing going. He's a major, talent. He hates me, but there's a major talent there,
That's good. And I've heard that you've always wanted to be in ACDC, so it's good that you get to do a bit of both.
Well, after I've been doing a few of these shows, I realised that I can sing this stuff as good as Bon Scott. Well, in my own way, but certainly better than Brian Johnson. So I reckon they should get rid of Axl and get me to do it. Hey! Yeah! They're going to be doing an album with Axl, apparently. I think he does a good job with ACDC, actually. Anyway.
Hopefully in the future, you get in there.
No.
Hopefully they're watching this interview and they'll just, be like, need to get him in.
No, I'll just watch this. I get stuffed. I will get stuffed.
Otherwise, you still got Choirboys, so living the dream. And one of the shows you'll be doing on the tour is at the Ettamogah on Saturday, the 1st of April. So for those coming along to that show or any of the others on the tour, what can they expect?
Well, it's going to be over 2 hours of music, loud rock and roll music. But we'll be doing the first album with Bon Scott that AC/DC recorded with Bon Scott, and the last album they recorded with Bon Scott. So it's high voltage, cover to cover, Highway to Hell, cover to cover, exactly as you hear the albums. And most of it's in the same key too. Help me. And of course, Bond, right up there. So it's the 2 albums, and then we do a bunch of Choirboys songs straight afterwards as well. So it's a full schmear of Australian pub rock.
So we can expect Run to Paradise, because
absolutely.
I think people want to hear that live.
Yeah.
Awesome. Now, even though you guys have already achieved so much in your career, what else can we expect from you in the future? You've obviously got the tour, and then what's next?
We've got 4 albums coming out. We're doing a live album first. And I think the title of the album is going to be Pub Rock, because it's live and it's us and it's what we are. We're not an art band. We're not even cool. We're just a bloody Australian pub rock band. So we might even call it Australian pub rock, mate. And then we have an album entitled 1965, which is already in a can. I can't tell you what the content is, but it is reflective. And then we'll be doing another album after that about Australia in the 70s. We haven't even started that one yet. So we're full on going at it at the moment. Oh, there's another one after that, the 4th album, which will only have 3 chords in it, in every song. 3 chords. Not 4, but 3.
Wow. Are we to expect that all this year, or is it going to be over this year and next year? And I don't know how fast you guys work.
No, we're going to do it. We're going to do 2 this year, and then 1 next year, and one year after, and then
Cool, awesome. We can expect some new stuff. It's going to be very exciting.
Yep, absolutely.
And what advice, Mark, would you give to the listeners who might want to follow their dreams of becoming a singer or just getting into the entertainment industry?
Look, I'll go with Michael Stipe's advice from REM. They said, what advice would you give up-and-comers? He said, don't eat broccoli before a photo shoot. Just quickly, the world has changed a lot. There's not a live scene anymore, particularly not in Australia. It's very hard, and you mentioned Reece Masterton right now. He's got a great voice, but he had to break through television in order to create a name. So the answer is YouTube. Do your music and release it through YouTube. That's your audience. That's where your audience is. That's where our audience is even. And that's the way we're looking at it. It's very hard to do it live. We're one of the lucky ones. We can go out and still work live, but there's very few of us. But for up-and-comers, it's very difficult. If you think, I'll do a bunch of demos and send it to a record company, don't think that way. You've got to create a market. Look at Sia, the way Sia did it. Brilliant. Nothing to do with live performances, everything to do with the internet. And she's done a brilliant job with it.
Yeah. Well, that's good advice. Thank you very much, Mark. Hopefully they take it on board.
Thank you.
And we are getting to the end of the interview, unfortunately. It's gone very quickly. I know. But as a closing statement, and what's probably the most important question, knowing what you know now, what would you tell your 14-year-old self?
Don't look at pictures of bikini girls. That's it. And try and love your father despite the fact that he is a total a-hole.
Family first, right? Definitely.
Yeah.
And before we go, if the listeners would like to contact you or find out what you're up to, where should they go?
They should go to Choirboys Facebook page, and look, I don't know this, Choirboys Facebook, which has got a lot of stuff on it, always, constantly, or choirboys.net is our website, and that's the place to go.
And everything will be on there.
Everything will be on there. All the gigs, all the pictures of bikini girls from the 60s.
They're on there too, all right?
Hey, it's what whatever. Okay.
Well, thank you so much for coming on the show today, Mark. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you very much, Lauren.
You're welcome. I'd love to have you on again in the future. I know I have a lot more questions if we had time. And hopefully next time we can have you here in the studio.
That'd be great, mate. Yes.
Hopefully after the tour, when you've got a bit more free time, we can organise it. You got my contact now, so let's organise it.
All right.
Great, thank you.
See you, Lauren.
Well, I hope you all enjoyed today's interview, and if you'd like to listen to any of my other interviews, you can check out all the podcasts and videos on our website, raveituptv.com. But for now, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye!